On average, just in the United States, about 220 people die every single day from an opiate overdose. By the time we finish this show, 8 to 10 people are going to die from an opiate overdose. If we get even one person, one viewer with this program that we might be able to help with some of the information that's shared on here, then it's all worth it. Hey everyone, welcome to the Dare Me podcast. We're glad to have you here with us. I'm your host, Glenn Victor, coming to you live from Sacramento, California. So excited for this edition of the show. We got some really cool and fun stuff lined up for you, I will tell you. So we're really glad to have you here with us. And right out of the gate, we got to go to Orlando, Florida, all the way over on the other side of the country on the East Coast, and bring in our co-host and producer behind the scenes handling all the things, Dean Baker at Post Effects Digital Productions. Dean is have been really busy working on this edition of the show. Dean, appreciate all the hard work you've been doing. Everything good over there?
Everything's good.
All right, and then we got to bring our special guest, man. So excited to have rapper, hip-hop artist, graphic design artist, and just all-around great person, Dustin Warbear, coming to us live from Wisconsin. Dustin, welcome to the Dare Me podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me, Glenn. I'm glad to finally be able to connect with you on here.
Yeah, well, you know what, bro? I got to tell you, I may be the guy kind of leading the way on this whole thing. I'll also say I feel like this is our podcast because, of course, Dean, I approached you about doing this show with me and being the co-host and doing all the production behind the scenes. And Dustin, as you know, you created the logo for this program as a graphic design artist. So I mean that sincerely. I think of the program as our podcast because we've all played a very intricate part in putting this thing together, And so when you and I worked on that logo, Dustin, we hadn't even done our first show yet, and I talked to you at that time about having you on the show, and when I finally did talk to you this week about having you on, I felt a little self-conscious that I haven't had you on sooner because this is our 12th edition, the Dirty Dozen, we saved you till the 12th edition of the show. But I'm kind of glad in a way that, we've done it the way we have because we started the show off and, we didn't have all the pieces in place. And we flushed out a lot of, the demons in the system, as they say, and some bumps along the way. And I think we've really got it down to a pretty good science now. And so anyway, we're going to talk a lot more with Dustin Warbear, everyone. Tell you how him and I met and talk in depth about his music and his path and things to that nature. And yeah, you got the Future of Artists mug there. That's where we met at that Future of Artists Summit, which we're going to talk about in detail. And I wanted to bring you into the show right out of the gate, Dustin. And like I say, we're going to get into, good discussion with you here shortly. And, before we do that, though, there's some things I like to do on the front end of the show. You, and of course, Dean, you already know this as always. Feel free to just interrupt me anytime, interject, chime in, be part of the conversation. Yeah.
Okay.
Because Dean knows quite well, doesn't it? I can run my mouth, so don't feel awkward about jumping in. We want you to be part of the conversation. But let me say hello to some of our people watching and listening. I see we already have like 8 viewers right now.
Wow.
We've got a couple
All right.
people in the chat. Want to say hi to Neela, our boy Shivang, who's been a guest on the show. We got Ace Wild. Hey, Ace, glad to have you here with us. And yeah, we're going to provide a telephone number and a link here shortly for people to
Oh, yeah.
participate in the show if they want to. You can call in, ask Dustin any questions about his process and any questions you might have for us having to do with the show. So anyway, that's our intro there. Going to take a brief little bit of time right now to recap kind of the purpose of this show and that whole name, Dare Me, where did that come from and all that. So the purpose of this show, if somebody's catching it for the very first time, even though this is our 12th episode, like I joked around the Dirty Dozen, we know we get people who watch or listen or tune in for the very first time, whether it's this live show or the recorded version that gets posted when we're done. And so if this is your first time checking out the Dare Me podcast, the catalyst for this program was to try to help anyone who may be struggling with an opiate addiction, an opioid addiction, or really any drug for that matter, and you're going through that and you're trying to find a way out. Well, this is a program that we try to provide some practical ideas and solutions for you that can help you get out of that madness if that's what you're looking to do. I became hopelessly addicted to opiates, and I went on a 9-year run with that shit, y'all, and it almost killed me. I got war stories, believe me. I've told several of them on previous episodes. If this is your first time with us on the Dare Me podcast, highly encourage you to go back and watch some of the previous episodes, especially if you are a person struggling with an opiate addiction. We talk about some practical ideas you may want to try if you truly do want to kick. We talk about possibly going into a rehab or treatment center. We talk about Suboxone, Methadone, Kratom, 12-step programs, all that stuff. And we'll talk about it more moving forward. And so you get the idea. Now, even though I had that addiction for 9 years, I've been clean now for over 2 years off the opiates. It's a freaking miracle. I can't believe it. I'm so grateful. And part of my journey in getting and staying clean are all those little hashtags that are part of our name, Dare Me. Dare Me has a few meanings. It really does. Initially it was like, fucking dare me to do this show, because I kind of came from the professional world. I lived in Central Florida for 30 years. I worked in a high-profile position on television, news media, radio. I was a PR guy and spokesperson for a pretty high-profile, conservative, multi-million-dollar company for like 25 years. I had to keep my shit clean, I did a pretty good job of it despite my addiction, I was one of them functioning addicts, for real, until those last couple years when it just, totally snowballed out of control and I, pretty much crashed and burned. So, it took a lot of balls for me to come out of the closet, as they say, and be open about my addiction and struggles. When you're in a high-profile position like that, it's not real easy to do because you start to get, the ego kicking in and worried about your reputation. And, in some cases, in all reality, sometimes people's livelihood even, but, I just decided I had no right to keep to myself what I went through if telling my story, as we often say on this program, could help even one person to get through that madness and stay alive even one day longer, because so many people are dying from opiate overdoses still. It's not getting better, y'all. This opioid epidemic's been going on for fucking years, as we all know, and it just keeps getting worse with the fentanyl thing going on. Now, as we talked about on this show, they're adding xylazine to it. They call it trank on the streets. It's an animal tranquilizer. They're mixing in with the opiates and the heroin and all this shit. It's just fucking crazy. And so I decided, I want to do this program because when I was trying to kick, because I tried for a long time before I was finally able to, like during the the COVID epidemic, I'd be fucking isolating at home and I'd get dope sick and I'd be scrolling online looking for information information how to get through opiate withdrawals because it's fucking horrible, man. Worst fucking thing I ever been through in my life. Getting dope sick and having to go through that. And I found information out there on Google, YouTube, TikTok, different platforms, but I didn't find anything like what we're doing. Now, I did find some helpful information, and we've talked about it on previous shows. We'll talk more about it moving forward, but nothing like what we're doing here. And that ties into the name of the show. It's kind of like why I went into that story, you know. The main topics we talk about are drugs, addiction, recovery, and then things that helped me to get clean and are helping me stay clean. Enlightenment, music, exercise. And so today's focus is really going to be mostly on music. You know, we had Dennis Salvaggio, the Orlando Magic fat guy, on a couple weeks ago. That program pretty much focused on fitness and exercise because the dude lost 130 pounds. If you follow my story, you know I've lost 50. You know, in the best shape I've been in my life pretty much now. So, you know, fitness, exercise, a huge part of my recovery. Next week, we're going to be talking a lot about enlightenment, but this week it's all about music. So you get the idea. The name really kind of, you know, evolved into meaning a lot of different things than just fucking dare me to do this show, you know, and turned into these acronyms and hashtags that we use. So yeah, music, a huge part of my recovery. And, you know, for those of y'all that follow me, know my stuff, I made a living with music, you know, as a DJ. Played music on the radio as part of my career. Had a couple of different mobile DJ businesses in a 30-year period. Worked and got countless clubs and bars mixing and playing, and now, you know, I'm on this path of working in Auto-Tune and Logic Pro and stuff like that. And so, you know, Dustin mentioned that Future of Artists Summit, man, that really got me motivated, and I do a lot of covers. I put some stuff out there. You know, I get a little better all the time at it. So music has played such a huge role in helping me to get and stay clean because I needed something, some passion to live for, because that dope had me so fucked up in my head that I was like ready to check out, y'all. And I've talked about it on an earlier episode of this show. We called that show Opiates and Suicide, because a lot of people do commit suicide as a result of their fucking opiate addiction. It's insane. That was an interesting show. I highly recommend, if you're interested in this topic, go back and watch that one. We had some interesting conversation on that. So anyhow, that's the recap of the purpose of the show. If you're dope sick and you happen to come across this show and you're still with us and you're watching, stick with us. We'll go for an hour and a half, even sometimes up to a couple hours. At the very least, if you don't even learn anything on the show, we'll help you kill a couple of hours, because when you're trying to kick, it's like climbing the fucking walls. Clock moves at a snail's pace, and that's what it comes down to when you're trying to kick, man, is time's got to go by to get that shit out of your system. I get it. Been there, done that, bought the motherfucking t-shirt. You got the cold sweats, you got restless arm and leg syndrome, you feel like you're about to crawl out of your skin, there's a hamster running on a wheel in your chest, and you know, you got no fucking energy, no appetite, you got insomnia. It's fucking horrible, man. It is horrible. So if you are going through that, you come across this show, stick with us. You know, we'll keep you entertained for a couple hours, and hopefully you will learn some things. And for anybody else who's maybe not even struggling with any kind of addiction, let it be opiates or anything else, I think we have a pretty entertaining program, and especially if you're into music and some of these other topics we talked about. So with all that said, y'all, let me kind of transition into a couple other things. And Dean, appreciate you putting the focus on me there as I recapped the purpose of the show. But I just want to encourage, again, Dustin, Dean, if you guys want to chime in on any of this stuff as we go on from here, please do. And by the way, Dustin, we're going to show the logo. You know, we've got a little bit of a take on it right here, but we're going to show the actual whole logo that you designed and some of your other graphic art when we get to that point of the show. But right now, I gotta do this next thing. And you guys both know about this already, and I know a lot of our viewers and listeners do too. It was so fucking cool this week, man. I got to meet Billy Bob Thornton. And we talked about it on last week's show that I was going to one of his concerts. And Dean and our friend Dennis, they encouraged me to try to get, an interview with them. And it fucking happened. I couldn't believe it. And yeah, if you're wondering, y'all, that Billy Bob Thornton, I'm talking about, Sling Blade, Armageddon, Bad Santa 1, Bad Santa 2, that TV show Goliath, Angelina Jolie, that Billy Bob Thornton, okay? So he is a musician, and that actually is his first love. Acting kind of happened to him, as he says, by accident. His first love was always music, and he has this group. They call themselves the Boxmasters. And yeah, I'm glad you brought this up, Dean, because this was just a random ad I got in my feed. Because I do go to a lot of shows, and I'm like, holy shit, Billy Bob Thornton is playing at this place, the Harris Center, which is only like about 10 minutes from where I live. It's a college, and they have this small theater. This was a sign inside once I got in there that only seats 850 people. And there's a cool view from it of it from the outside. So I went online just to see what kind of ticket I might be able to get. I got a fucking front row ticket to the show, and so it wasn't expensive to me. It was like $75. People are paying thousands to be front row for other artists and stuff. And I thought, fuck, I'll go for $75. I didn't know what to expect. I knew some of the Boxmaster stuff. I had come across it, from time to time on YouTube or whatever. And I was honest when I talked to him. I said, I got to be honest, Billy, I really didn't know a lot about y'all's music until I knew you were doing this show, and then I checked it out. So you can see this is a picture I took. I'm literally leaning on the stage. That's him in the corner there. And so I went around after the show to the back where there were 3 tour buses. Just out of curiosity, I thought, you know what, I've heard people go around back, sometimes meet them when they come out. And there were like 6 people standing there. So I pulled up next to them and I said, hey, are y'all waiting for Billy to come out? They go, oh, yeah, he'll be out in a few minutes. We follow him around. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I parked and I'm looking out the window, and less than 10 minutes later, sure enough, he walks out. He's standing there talking to a couple people. So I said, fuck it, I'm going up there. And I did, and he was talking to one guy, so I'm standing there, and I didn't want to be rude and interrupt, and he saw me, and he looks over, he goes, hey, you were at the show, weren't you? I go, yep, front row, bro. And he goes, hey, man, glad you came, and how'd you like it? I'm like, oh, God, bro, it was cool, and, and so we talked for a little bit. I told him, hey, I know you probably hear this all the time, but, man, huge fan. Yeah, that's a picture right there that we took together. And he was like, oh, yeah, man, I appreciate it. And so then I go, well, listen, I got to ask a favor. I said, if you're not cool doing this, Billy, I totally understand. No problem at all, man. I go, but I do a podcast, and one of the things we talk about on there a lot is music and stuff. I said, would you be willing to give me a plug? He goes, oh, no problem, man. What's the name of the podcast? So I told him. He goes, what's your name again? I told him my name. And he does this fucking plug for us. So, Dean, if you got that video handy, let's go ahead and play it, and then we'll talk about it more.
Hey, everybody. I'm here with Glenn Victor. And I just want to say hey to everybody in the Dare Me podcast world out there.
Billy Bob Thornton, thanks, bro. I really appreciate it, man. All right, you rock. Well, how about that, y'all?
How about that?
Yeah.
Fucking Academy Award winning guy. I was kind of standing and fangirling and starstruck, but I kept my cool pretty good. He was such a nice guy, man. It was just like, I'd be hanging out with either of you guys. He was just so approachable and so cool. And, it wasn't a huge crowd back there, but for those of y'all that don't know, man, that movie Sling Blade, it's like a classic. He came up with the whole idea for that. He wrote the whole thing. He directed the thing. He starred in it. And there's a lot of interviews out there on Google where he talks about it and stuff. And so, if you know much about Billy Bob Thornton, he truly is one of my definitions of cool. So it really was kind of cool to meet him. And the fact that we got a plug from Billy Bob Thornton for the Dare Me podcast, I just thought it was fucking cool as hell. And then, just so you know, obviously I posted that on social media. I put it on Facebook, both YouTube channels I got, Twitter, TikTok. And I have posted a lot of reels and stuff in the last year. Never, ever have I got as many views as I did for that thing. Because I hashtagged it with his name and stuff. And I mean, we got thousands, y'all. Thousands of views just since I went to that show Thursday. So, we'll probably hashtag him again with this episode. And so anyway, wanted to send a shout out to Billy Bob Thornton. Hopefully he'll watch the show at some point. And they're on tour right now, by the way. And if they come to a town near you, man, I highly recommend going to see them. Because it was pretty good show, and we're going to show some other stuff from that show. We got a couple video clips. There's a picture of him up on the stage. He doesn't sound when he's singing anything like you would think.
I noticed that.
What's that, Dean?
I noticed that he doesn't. His voice.
Yeah. He reminds me of this guy. You guys probably wouldn't know him, but there's a band that's really popular in Detroit called Benny and the Jets, believe it or not. And they've been around for years. I mean, I'm talking 40 years. And the lead singer who's actually an old friend and colleague of mine, Benny Spear, is the lead singer of it, and that's who Billy Bob reminded me of. And Dean, if you want to, let's go ahead and play that video.
It's a song that you may relate to because I'm sure at some point in your lifetime you've regretted something you did or said. It's a song called "I Must Have Been High." Must have been high when I said those things, with the mud in your eye. I can see how it stings.
So anyway, that's Billy Bob Thornton singing and performing live with his group, the Boxmasters. And, man, it was just a really fun time, y'all. So anyhow, I couldn't resist sharing that and kind of tooting our own horn here. Is that the applause button I heard?
Yeah.
Yeah, tooting our own horn that we got a shout out from Academy Award-winning actor, artist, musician Billy Bob Thornton. Man, you just never know. Fucking life is crazy sometimes. So anyhow, want to do a couple more shout outs, and then we're going to talk about a couple current events, and then Dustin, I appreciate you hanging tough with us because I'm really looking forward to talking with you more, man.
No problem.
I want to send a shout out to another artist, this musician. His name is Maroki, and I haven't met the dude yet, but I hope to. And he's out of New Zealand, and he was signed by one of my favorite artists who I talk about on this show a lot, Benny. And I have met Benny a couple times, and she started her own record label called Olive Records. Well, Maroki's got some great stuff out there, y'all. I highly encourage you to check them out. And I know Dean's going to put some stuff up in a minute here, but it's spelled Muroki, Maroki. And there's one tune that I fell in love with. It's called Wavy. Is really good. So anyway, he's down in South California right now as we speak. He's down in L.A. and Hollywood. And he posted a pic of himself at a guitar center because he does play guitar, and he's really good. And he posted this pic, and he wrote the caption, "Guitar Porn." And so I think Dean's about to bring that up right now. But anyway, when he posted the pic, I commented on it. There he is. He's at the Guitar Center on Sunset Boulevard in Hollywood. And so you see, that's him right there. And then, so I commented on it. I'm trying to remember what I said. What did I say? Love this or something like that. And it just goes to show how I can be a stan and a fangirl sometimes because he replied to my comment. And that was another one that I sent you, Dean. And so I just was really, like when I saw he replied to my comment, I was excited. Like, oh my God, he replied to my fucking comment. How cool is that? And so I just thought we'd do a shout out to him. Maroki, if you see this sometime, bro, I would love to have you on the show. Yeah, that's probably it right there, Dean. I think that might be it. Yeah, there he is. Oh no, that's not it. That's something we're going to talk about later. Nope, that's not it either. But it's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it's probably right near that picture. But anyways, Maroki is signed by Benny. and I'd love to have her on the show at some point as well. And I have met her a couple times, so we might just get through to them and see if we could have maybe even both of them on the show at the same time. So anyway, check out Maroki. He's on all the platforms out there. Okay, the next one I wanted to do a shout out to this kid. He goes by the stage name Optimistic. And I got to meet this guy back around the holidays. I've talked on this show about some artists. In fact, Dustin, you and I were talking about it before we went on the air. About this group, this duo I know called Moving Forward Music, Tyler Olam and Josh Biddart, and I can't wait to have them on the show. So they invited me to a party. It was a holiday party that they were performing at, and I went. And before they went on, there was this kid. I call him a kid. Optimistic is what he goes by. And yeah, that's it right there, Dean. Yep, those two right there. So anyway, he announced this week that he's doing a show that's coming up in July. That's the pick right there, Dean, if you want to bring it up. Yep, there he is. And it's coming up in July at Cal Expo. And I'm talking, Dustin, this fucking guy can spit like fire. I mean, it's speed rapper, like Tech 9 level stuff. And he just blows my mind. And so, I did send you a couple more of him, Dean. One where I actually posed with him at the party that I mentioned. That's just something I lifted from his Facebook page. He's got a new album out and yeah, there I am with him at the party. Thanks for bringing those all up, Dean. So anyway, we wanted to send a shout out to Optimistic and also to, wait, we ain't ready for that one yet, to Tyler and Josh with Moving Forward Music. And then the last shout out I wanted to do, Dean, was one you brought up, that guy Jose Sanchez from Mexico City. Because I've mentioned on this show, man, that it just blows my mind the reach that we're getting. Not only are we all across the country, just like even right now, I'm in Sacramento, Dustin's in Wisconsin, Dean's in Orlando. We've been getting feedback from people in, Canada, London, overseas. And this week I was contacted by this guy, Jose Sanchez from Mexico City in Mexico, who's watching and listening to the program. So anyway, we just want to send a shout out to Mexico City and Jose Sanchez in Mexico. Thanks for checking out the Dear Me podcast, bro. So anyway, with all that said, we're going to get to Dustin in just a second here, but we're going to talk about a couple of current events that are coming up. This is something we try to do every show, Dustin. And there's one event in particular we want to talk about for all our folks in the recovery community. If you're somebody struggling with an addiction, or I know we get a lot of viewers and listeners who are already actively involved in the program, meaning the 12-step programs, this is an event that is a huge event every year in Akron, Ohio, kind of up in your neck of the woods there, Dustin, and it's called the AA Founders Day. So Alcoholics Anonymous was formed by these two guys, Bill W. and this dude named Dr. Bob. Well, Dr. Bob lived in Akron, Ohio, and there's a house there that's really kind of become like a museum. And Bill and Bob used to bring these drunks there after they got sober, and they would sit in sleep in Bob's spare room, and they'd try to help them get sober and work with them on, straightening their life out and shit. And so this Founders Day event goes on every year, and it starts next weekend. It'll be going on June 9th, 10th, and 11th in Akron, Ohio. And I'm telling you, thousands of people, not just from around the country, but literally from around the world, go to this event. And this house, Dr. Bob's house, is like right in this neighborhood in Akron, Ohio, and it's almost like a parade of cars all day and all night of people from around the world that go there to drive by. And you can go inside. You can literally go inside, walk around the house, go upstairs where they would take people to help them get sober and shit. And it's very, very powerful because man, that program means a lot of things to a lot of people, and it's just it's considered like a sacred spot to a lot of people. Next week on the program, we're going to talk a lot more about it while the event takes place next weekend. I've actually been there before, and we have some pictures and things, and we'll talk about that. So anyway, another current event we want to talk about. And Dean, if you might be able to find these, and this is going to be our transition into talking to Dustin in depth, is Jelly Roll. Who's a musician, rapper, country singer, artist. He just released a brand new album 2 days ago on Friday, and last week this documentary was released that I got to watch. And if you don't know who Jelly Roll is, I highly encourage that you check him out. His actual name is Jason DeFore. Jelly Roll is his stage name, and the dude has an amazing story. He got himself in a lot of trouble as a younger man. And there's a picture. Appreciate that, Dean. That's kind of the promo for his documentary. It's called Save Me, which is one of his most popular songs right now and is on the album. He got himself in a lot of trouble. He got involved in drugs and addiction, went to prison and all that kind of stuff. And, he's cleaned his life up. And Dustin, this is something interesting I thought I'd point out. In the documentary, not to spoil it, I know you said earlier you were going to be watching it. He never really started taking performing and singing serious and became big till he's fucking 38 years old. So, a lot of these younger artists, sometimes they think, oh, that ship sailed, I'm 25 now or I'm 30 or whatever. And, here this fucking guy, he's like one of the biggest artists on the planet right now, and he never even really took singing serious and thought he could really make a go of it till he was 38 years old. So, yeah, y'all, he just released this album. It's called Whitsitt Chapel, and it just came out Friday. Highly encourage you to go check it out, especially if you're a person involved in, trying to get clean and addiction and stuff. There's a couple of tunes on there that are really powerful, and then I highly encourage you to watch the documentary because he talks a lot about his struggles and how he got to where he's at now. The dude really sounds like a cool dude. So with all that said, Dustin, I can't thank you enough, bro, for kind of sitting on ice for me while I got all that stuff out of the way. Like I said, we try to recap on the front end what the show's about. I see we got another friend of yours, Boggs Bogdanovich, is in the chat room. So we want to send a shout out to him. Yeah, say hi to him. So let's recap, Dustin, how you and I first met. So, you held the mug up there, and, we both went to this Future of Artists Summit. And when I say held the mug up, because it has the logo that they designed.
Yes, sir.
For the Future of Artists Summit. And the Future of Artists Summit was put on, there it is, bro, by the rapper and artist Caskey and one of his producers, Anonymous. And they spearheaded this whole thing. And like you and I talked about briefly before we went on the air, I was a little bit sus about going and was thinking, this might just be a money grab, but I'm going to go anyways and check it out. And man, nothing could have been further from the truth. It truly was value added. And man, everybody I talked to, I talked to a lot of people there, as I know you did too. I never even heard even one negative comment. I heard more things like people saying it was life-changing and things to that nature. And of course, I made so many great connections like with you as well. So, tell us a little bit, if you would, Dustin, about, your experience at the summit and a little bit about your history, with getting involved in music and your path and your journey. I know our listeners would love to hear more about it, and myself as well. How'd you get started in this whole thing?
Well, I've been doing music for quite a long time, actually. When I was a kid, I lived out in the middle of nowhere where I didn't really have any friends. The internet wasn't really good enough to do anything online. So I got a guitar and I started playing guitar. And that turned into me being in multiple bands. I did a few tours with a few bands, and I did the guitar playing for probably 15 plus years before I
Right.
transitioned into the rapping.
Mm-hmm.
And that happened because of COVID mostly. I was still actually in a band at the time when COVID happened. And because of all the quarantines and people just not wanting to risk it and get sick, we kind of stopped practicing and kind of fell off as a band. And I didn't want to stop making music because I mean, music it's what I do. It's my soul, you know, it's my escape from reality. So
Right.
I'd been listening to rap for probably 10 years at that point, but I never really thought about rapping, you know. But I was
Mm-hmm.
like, well, might as well give it a shot. Like I love rap. I got into it mostly because of a Tech Nine, Strange Music. I got it tattooed on my neck. That's my favorite label. A lot of my favorite artists come from there. So yeah, I found some beats on YouTube, started writing. I was like, this is actually not bad. I think I'm gonna keep doing this, and it's just turned into what it is now.
Well, I really appreciate you sharing that with us, Dustin. And we got some pics and some videos we'd like to show, and then we're going to talk to you more and get your take on them. Dean, if you were able to follow along with that outline, I had a few pics from the summit of Caskey and. I even had those couple of Caskey tea picks. And while you're looking for those, I just want to say, y'all, I wore this shirt, Dustin, today, and this is Caskey merch. On the front, it says Black Sheep, and it's cool as hell. And then I'm going to show y'all the back of it real quick. And I didn't mean turn my back to you, and I don't know if you can see that, but it says always a black sheep. And for those that know, you know, you know. If you don't know Caskey, that was one of his big early CDs was Black Sheep, and then he did Black Sheep 2, et cetera, et cetera. So now he's kind of got this following, and we kind of referred to ourselves as the Black Sheep Cult. And so, Dean, like I said, I sent you a couple it says Caskey tea picks. And so I couldn't resist showing them on the show today. Well, there we are at the summit, by the way, first of all. And you remember that, Dustin. That was the room we were in, right?
Yes, sir.
And so I see Neela's still with us in the chat room, my boy Shebang. That's the guy all the way to the right. And then the guy in the middle is my boy Brendan Fields, and he goes by the stage name YHB, Young Heartbroken. And we told him he needs to get a better, more positive name. But man, both of them guys are so fucking talented. And yeah, man. Okay, so these pics here, I had to show these. I go to the gym on the daily, Dustin, and that was one of the things that, man, them guys at the summit, they really motivated us all to stay in shape. And so these two girls work at the Planet Fitness, and I wore that shirt there one day, and they asked me about it. They didn't know what the fuck it was. They were like, "What is that Black Sheep cult?" And hey, sober. And I told them all about Caskey and turned them on to his music and all that, and they were like, "Oh man, we love that shirt." I said, "Really? You like it?" I said, "I got you." So I got them each one, and when they came in, I said, "Okay, y'all, I'll give you these shirts, but you got to let me get a pic so I could send it to that boy Caskey and show him I'm out here recruiting and representing more people for the Black Sheep cult." So I
Right.
just actually sent them to Anonymous. This morning? Yeah, this morning. And they're on the road. I guess he's doing a show in Kansas City tonight. But so anyway, if anybody's interested in any Caskey merch, just go to baconwithcaskey.com, and he's got all his stuff on there. And it's quality stuff, y'all. These aren't cheap shirts or anything like that. So there's a little plug for Caskey, man. And then, of course, Dustin, got the coffee mug. So, Dustin, we were talking about it briefly. I did. Oh, there's that AA Founders Day info, Dean. That ship sailed.
Yeah, I know.
No, I tell you, I bombarded Dean with stuff today, Dustin, just so you know. I mean, I don't know how the fuck he's even keeping it all in the order he is. I sent him a lot of stuff. And I say it all the time. If we get to them all, great. If we don't, no stress. But there's an old saying, it's always better to have more than not enough, you know? So,
No, it's not.
Dean said, no, it's not. Man, you know. So anyway, though, you know, I was going to say, Dustin, I got a message, or, you know, none of us put something out there that he's already starting to get into the planning stages of doing the next Future of Artists Summit. So I was so excited to hear that they're going to keep doing this thing and move forward with it. So, okay, well, let's move into this, because I wanted to, Dean, you're going to get a kick out of this. I lifted this from your page, Dustin, and I just want to read it real quick out loud. It says, I'm not sure why I felt like I had to make this like a commercial from the 90s, but that's what happened. And the reason I thought you'd get a kick out of this, Dean, and Dustin, you don't really know this, but Dean and I have worked together for, God, like 25 years, and a lot of that time was during the 90s, and I hosted a television show in Orlando for like 7 years. And some of the commercials we used to make were kind of cheesy, like you referred to here, 90s shit. And when I saw that you did that spot, I literally laughed my ass off, because it reminded me of myself in the 90s. And I just thought it was such a cool take you did. You know, here, you know, a lot of people think of rappers as, oh, this gangster ass rapping shit, and, you know, these people stuck in the 70s or whatever. And here you're such a cool guy, and you do this kind of different take on promoting, you know, your music by doing this, like you describe here, this old 90s type commercial or whatever. So, yeah, Dean, if you have that video handy, I think it'd be really fun to show it, and I think people would get a kick out of it if you got that one handy. You know which one I'm talking about? It's the same, you know, Dustin's wearing the same outfit. No, that ain't the one. You showed it once already. It should be, I believe it's video 7. Yep.
Do you like new music, but struggle to find new music to listen to? Do you like shows, but don't know where to find them? Look no further. Come on down to Dustin Warbear. We got new songs every week, shows every month, shirts, stickers, and more. So what are you waiting for? Search Dustin Warbear on any and all platforms and tap in now.
So, Dustin, I hope you don't mind. I just couldn't resist playing that. I thought you'd get a kick out of that, Dean. Look at Dean. He's getting a belly laugh out of it. Doesn't it remind you of me back in the 90s, Dean, with some of them spots we used to do in a little way, at least?
Kind of reminds me of the, what is it? There's a Chinese guy selling appliances.
Oh, yeah, in Orlando. I know you're talking about. Yeah.
Appliance Factory Direct.
Yeah. Or you know, with all respect, the car salesman, almost like a used car salesman ad,
Right,
too,
yeah,
you know?
that was the other thing I had in mind, yep.
Yeah, well, I thought that was really cool, Dustin, and a unique way to, you know, promote your music that, you know, definitely caught my attention. So let's go into video 6, if we could, Dean.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to shotgun through some videos here. So let's go to Warbear video 6, and I want to talk about this.
Hey, only way to keep the stress low, blaze throw, stacking up the C notes like I'm playing Play-Doh. Never getting comfortable switching up the angles, cause I need a million different ways that I can gain dough. So much ground to regain though, staying low to it when I do it, always feeling faithful in the fact that I would find my way to fame and fortune. Now I'm in the game and torching any lane that in my way, bro. Only thing that ever calmed me down is marijuana, so I'm begging you to finally legalize it. Please, your honor, cause I'd rather smoke a little tree than drown myself in lager. If you check the numbers, you would see there really is a problem. Find a little piece of plant and they lock up a father. Now a space between him and his family's growing even farther. All I tried to do was take the two and smoke a doobie, not to lose a little bit of cool. He's still holding on to chill.
I fucking love it, man.
Wow.
That is like, now what a contrast going from that used car salesman ad to you spitting it right there. In which, by the way, we got to point out you were wearing some Kasky merch there. That's a cool jersey you got, though. But
I actually thought about wearing it today too, but it's a little cold in here.
Oh, right. Well, I'll tell you, man, it's hot here in Sacramento. It's like 95
Oh, it's hot
degrees
outside.
out. Yeah.
I
Oh, right
just
on.
my apartment's cold because of the air conditioning.
Oh, gotcha. Well, hey, we're gonna, like I said, shotgun through a few videos here and get your take on them, Dustin. So, Dean, let's go ahead and show Warbear video 5 now is the one.
Something that a bill can't fix. People talking crazy, then a motherfucker still ain't this. To keep it 100, does don't nobody feel they shit. And when I catch them all slipping, they're the ones I have a field day with. Fuck all the shit that they talking, I'm really a psycho. You rapping about it, but Cap, you ain't really a psycho. Fuck all the shit that they talking, I'm really a psycho. Fuck all the shit that they talking, I'm really a psycho. Something that a bill can't.
Okay, so I have to ask you about that one, Dustin, and I love that jam, by the way. And I just, and that's just, another example of like, just blows my mind how talented you are. Talk to us a little bit about that too. Why do you think it's the craziest one you ever did?
So the verses are absolutely insane on that one. At one point, at first I should preface with that is a remix of King ISO's song R.A.P. King ISO is my favorite rapper, a big role model of mine. I actually just got to open for him a couple weeks ago, which was awesome. But in my verse at one point, it says the R.A.P. and then I rap. Really a player running any position regularly, always prepared, repeatedly at practice rapping and poetically rare, although psychotic, really any parasite receiving a prayer. Which, if you look at the lyrics, those words are all R.A.P., R.A.P., R.A.P. over and over and over again.
Spitting it on the show too, man. I love it, man. Yeah.
Yeah, there's just a lot of good wordplay and a lot of stuff in there that I was really proud of.
Yeah, well, you should be, man. I think it's awesome. And hey, Neela, if you're still watching, bro, how about that, man? He was spitting that shit. I'll tell you what, Dustin, I can't wait. You got to meet that boy. Well, you met Shebang at the Future of Artists Summit, and we'll get him back out there again, man. I'll tell you, he can spit too. Just freestyle, it just blows my mind.
That's
how
one
talented.
talent I do not possess.
Yeah, well,
I cannot freestyle.
It just, I like, where do you guys come up with this shit? It's just like amazing, man. It really is. Okay, we're going to put you on the spot again and play the next video, Dean.
Yeah.
I think it was Warbear Vid 4, and then we'll get your take on this one. Trying to remember. I just sent them the numbers. I don't even remember which one we're about to watch.
They just hate. They always talking, but they don't communicate. They just hate. We'll only make it if we all collaborate. They just hate. They always talking, but they don't communicate. They just hate. We'll only make it if we all collaborate.
It's wild. I've been dealing with the hate since I was young, man. Always pulling out my hair from the gun, man.
Look at that. We even got a little taste of Ace Wild, who's still with us. Ace,
my boy.
man, he was spitting it on that motherfucker, too, and we would have loved to play the rest of it, but I just thought we'd play a little clip because that one you just released last Friday, right?
Yes, sir.
And so that's something we haven't even talked about on the show yet, and we need to say this, that Dustin puts out new music every single Friday. How long you been doing that, bro?
I'm about, I think, 8 months in now.
Yeah, so, oh my God, I got to tell you something, man. There's a interview out there. We were talking about Billy Bob Thornton and this group he has called the Boxmasters. And I came across this interview. I don't know, he did it about a year or so, or however long ago it was, around there. And him and this other guy in the band, JD, were talking about it. They have put out 16 albums. Who knew? And they've been playing since like 2005. But the point I'm making is that in this interview, he says, man, I don't think I'll ever stop recording. Just keep recording, keep recording, keep recording. You just never know, keep recording. And so I kind of thought of you when I was watching that interview because you're putting new shit out every Friday. And I got to be honest, bro, I like all your stuff. I really do. I did that term Kasky taught me. I did a deep dive into your stuff. Obviously, we're showing it all here. And that tune is my favorite. And you literally just put it out Friday, and I
like that one
love
a lot.
Oh my God, man, that's like a really cool tune, bro. That
Well,
is a
it's
great.
crazy too, because as I told you earlier, me, Ace, and Muncie, we all met. Well,
Mm-hmm.
me and Ace met Muncie through doing a competition where we actually all put these 3 verses out, and none of us won. But I was
Right.
like, why waste them? So I found a beat
Yeah.
that was the same key and the same tempo as the original one.
Yep.
Wrote a new chorus, which you showed in the video. That was the hook I wrote for it, probably in like 5 minutes.
Yep.
And
Yep.
then we just threw it all together and put it out as a song.
Bro, that one is like unbelievable. What's the response been like so far? I know it's only been a couple of days, but I would imagine you're probably already getting pretty good feedback on it. That's the
Yeah,
jam.
I think we're at a little over YouTube and over 300 streams on Spotify so far. So it's doing pretty well.
Yeah, well, that's fantastic, man. I'm just like, yeah. Dean's showing a lot of these photos right now, and I want to comment on them because that's another thing that I did want to discuss with you, Dustin. Is after the summit, after the Future of Artists Summit, you had put some information out there online because I started following your stuff that you do graphic design and graphic arts.
sir.
And I'm going to say this, but I say it with all respect. You and I mentioned that boy Tyler Ullum from Moving Forward Music. You guys remind me of that old saying of the starving artists because, see, to me, you guys are like fucking these unbelievable artists, yet I know you guys both work like regular jobs, just trying to get paid to pay the bills and get by. And it just,
Yep.
to me, it seems like, man, you guys, so fucking talented that you'd be, making this great living off the music. But man, sometimes you just got to keep doing it and hope something eventually hits, like what we were just talking about.
Exactly.
But in the meantime and in between time, you're doing this graphic design stuff. And I'm just kind of assuming here, bro, that you've done the graphic design work on the pictures that Dean's been showing, like the
Yeah,
badge
so
and.
I make all my own cover art. Now,
Mhm.
as of like the last few months, I do all my own lyric videos.
Mhm.
I do logos for other people, cover art for other people. The logo for you. So pretty much just, yeah, I do like everything myself, but make the beats at this point.
Right, right. And I just got to tell you folks, if you're, following along with us here, Dustin was so easy to work with and, as Dean will tell you, with my demanding ass sometimes, I must have kicked that logo back to you, Dustin, at least like 10 times and about the eighth or ninth time, 10th time, I was thinking to myself, this fucking guy's going to tell me to go take a fucking hike in a second. But you were just so easy to work with. Every time it was like, no problem, bro. I'll make that change, because we were just
We're
tweaking
family
it.
now, man.
What's that?
We're Summit family.
Yeah, you got it, bro. Exactly. And, in fact, I posted a promo reel that I did for you being on the show today in that Summit chat group. And a lot of people chimed in on that,
Oh, hell yeah.
But I just wanted to give you a little plug for that, man. If anybody's looking to have any graphic design work done, by all means, man, contact Dustin Warbear. You can follow him on any social media, and I'm sure, send a DM or whatever. And, man, you were just so easy to work with. And I love the logo. I can't tell you how much great feedback we've gotten on that logo. Dean, I don't know if you want to bring it up. I sent you the pic of the whole actual logo, with my picture sitting at the mic and all that shit. I mean,
Right.
anybody who follows my social media shit, I'm sure has seen it. But for the sake of the program today, I thought we might show it, because again,
Okay.
as I mentioned today, we didn't plan it this way. You and I talked before the show that there's a little bit of space right under where it says Glenn Victor and Friends for me to go and edit in each week who the guest is going to be. Yeah,
Right.
there you
Yeah,
go.
that's what I was thinking. Yeah. To
Yeah.
leave you some space so you could customize it every week for
Yes.
yourself.
So everyone, this logo you're looking at was all created by Dustin. And, I thought maybe I'd mention this too. I haven't really had many people mention this, but I have had one or two who thought okay, is this the old Dare program? And if you remember, Dustin, you and I talked about this when I first started working with you on this, and I said, oh, I don't want to be confused with them at all. And, if you were to take our logo and go compare it to their logo, it's completely different. First of all, we're Dare Me. We're not Dare. And then they have a period in between each letter because their word Dare stands for other things, It's a completely different font. We, of course, have the hashtags. You get the idea. And I explained the meaning behind it earlier in the show. So, that you just took, I actually sent Dustin, you'll remember this, I actually sent him some fucking hand drawings that I did. I was just sitting at the table one day and I started doodling and shit. And I said, oh, well, I'll send him these and see if he could bring it to life. And you did. And I'm so forever grateful, man. And that's why I said it's like, I may be the one who's mainly running his mouth on this program, but I really do think of this podcast as our show, meaning yours, Dustin. You created the logo. Dean, you're working behind the scenes co-hosting. And I'll say this as well, bro. Even like everybody at that Future of Artists Summit, I know I talk about it a lot on this show. I have talked about it a lot on previous shows. I had the idea in my head when I went to that summit, Dustin. Every single person that was there, whether they know it or not, helped motivate me when I left out of there to get this thing finally started. Because it was in the planning stages for, God, like almost a fucking year before I actually did it. And you know what? Anonymous, he put something out there that really motivated me. And you may remember this. He said that he was trying to motivate artists to get busy, and he said perfectionism can be a form of procrastination. And man, did
I
that
do
hit
remember
me.
that.
Yeah, that hit me right square between the eyes because that's what was going on with me in this podcast. I was trying to get all these little pieces in place and everything just perfect before I got it started and all that. And then finally, once you got the logo done and me and Dean had some things tweaked out, I said, you know what? He's fucking right. I got enough pieces in place to at least get it started. We're going to have some bumps along the way, but we'll work it out and flush it out. And that's exactly what's happened. And we still have some from time to time, especially when you go live. Anything can happen when you're fucking live. There's always going to be a problem. But hey, man, we're in our 12th episode now. So when I say that every single person at that summit helped motivate me to get this thing started, I'm serious. And so I think of it as our podcast, it really is.
So that's actually a big reason why I do the week releases, is because I am quite a perfectionist as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm
and
sorry.
It forces me not to be.
Yeah, I didn't mean to be leaning over, but our boy Ace Wild, he just chimed in the chat on that. And he said perfectionism is procrastination disguised as productivity. So, but anyway, there was one more video I really wanted to show, Dean, that we have of Dustin. And then I'd like to kind of get your take on it, Dustin. And it's where you'll see like there's a crowd. There's some.
Give me a number.
Okay, I think it was number 9. I'm pretty sure it was number 9.
Having a music career means you'll up a lot, get ignored a lot, get rejected a lot, be broke for a very long time, have no social life, be up at weird hours, go to bed at weirder hours, spend a ton of time in the studio, realize nobody understands you, overthink everything, but you'll still keep going.
Wow, bro, that's so fucking powerful.
True.
Yeah. When I saw that, I said, man, I got to lift that. We got to show that on the program because, it's like I said earlier, man. I think about guys like you, guys like my boy Tyler, you're out there doing that shit, man, doing big stuff, and you're still working a day job, and
Yep.
people who ain't artists, man, just don't think they get it, not to compare apples to oranges, but I saw an interview with one of my favorite artists, Mick Jagger. Dean knows I'm a Stones guy, man. I just fucking love them guys, and they're fucking 80 years old and they're still doing it, going on
Right.
world tours and all that shit. And so the point I'm making is this guy was interviewing Mick and he asks him, damn, dude, you obviously ain't doing it for the money anymore. You got enough of that. You're getting older. Have you ever thought about retiring? And his answer was, he goes, I don't think creative people can ever retire. It's just part of who you are and part of what you do. And when I
Right.
watched that video you did, that clip we just showed, I thought of that because you got to have a passion for it. You're working a full-time job, you're trying to support your family or take care of your bills, whatever the fuck, but you have this passion and drive for it. And man, I think that's really admirable. Dean, you had a photo up right after that video.
Yeah.
And I'd like to show that again if we can, because this is a show that you have coming up, right, Dustin?
Yep, this Friday.
Yeah, so talk to us about this. What's this all about?
So the Alpha Pack is a group that I'm a part of with a bunch of other rappers and artists and people that do other stuff. They're really with the self-improvement movement and just being on your grind thing. And so this is in Milwaukee. I've had a really good time every time I've been in Milwaukee, and I'm just thankful to be like involved with these dudes. My boy Dubsack is on there. We got this song Bucks together for the Milwaukee Bucks. My boy
Right.
Prism's on there. He's from Wausau, about 20 minutes from where I live. And honestly, Big Sabo, I got a song with him too. Just the
Well,
homies,
so yeah, anybody in the area there in Wisconsin, man, this sounds like a show that's going to be off the chain, bro. If I was in that area, I'd definitely be coming. But
It's a really cool venue too. Nikki Miggs is like a kind of like a bar, but they have a lot of board games. They do like D&D in the bottom floor. It's
Right.
one of the coolest places I've been, honestly.
Sounds like a cool vibe, man. I would love to go. And hey, man, I hope to have you back on the show from time to time, and maybe we'll hear a little bit more about that show. So,
Hey, absolutely.
you mentioned Muncie earlier, and Dean, I had sent you a couple picks. They were called Muncie Picks 1 and 2. And I talked with you briefly about him, Dustin, before we went on the air. And I think it's okay to talk about this because he's put it out there publicly on his social media and all. First of all, he's a rapper out of Detroit, which is my hometown. That's where I was born and raised. I lived in
Yeah.
Detroit, bro, till, I was like 30, and that'll always be home to me. I still have family there. I go back and visit all the time. So that caught my eye immediately that, whoa, bro,
Hey.
this dude's right out of Detroit. And then, of course, I appreciate you bringing that up, Dean. As it says, and again, this is on his social media, so I'm not like breaking his confidence or anything. It says, sharing my experience, strength, and hope with you through my music. Well, sharing your experience, strength, and hope, that is a saying, a phrase from the 12-step programs like NAAA, what have you. And then you see he's got his hashtag recovery, and that obviously is his clean date, October 14th of 2018. So he's going to be celebrating 5 years clean this year, man. That's fucking awesome.
Awesome.
I would love to have this dude on the show sometime. And I've never met him that I'm aware of or anything. So it just goes to show, man, how, one thing, it can be a domino effect sometimes. So, yeah,
Right.
there's the other picture. Like it says, Detroit MC. So tell us a little bit about Muncie and how you
So
got
I don't know
involved with him.
Muncie. Yeah, I don't know him too well. As I said previously, me and Ace actually first we didn't meet him in person, but we like met him through an online competition we entered that Futuristic was holding, if you know Futuristic.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does a contest through his company, Indie Amplify, which if you are an artist and you don't know Indie Amplify, I would go check them out right now because they have features, engineers, consulting, graphics, all that kind of stuff. But I mean, if you need graphics or engineering, just come to me instead.
Right.
But anything else, hit up Indie Amplify.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we had met him through doing mission, and I believe he actually talks about his recovery a little bit in that Hate song on the third verse.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you'd agree, considering, kind of the purpose of this show, he would be perfect for this program. You know what I
Him,
mean?
I have a couple people actually that I'm going to send your way that are
Yeah.
interested in being on the show that have similar stories.
It
Great,
seems
great.
like music is kind of a playground for the drug, alcohol
Yeah.
addiction areas. So, yeah,
It can
Well,
be
and
used both to push that agenda, but also as a therapy, I
yeah,
feel.
yeah.
yeah.
Well, and you know what else, Dean? I'm so glad you chimed in and said that because my history with playing music for money is in clubs and bars. I played in them places for years, and you're exactly right. It is a playground. Fuck, you're working in bars every night. You're gonna drink, and then
Yeah.
there's a lot of other stuff going around them places too. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so it's easy, very easy to get caught up in that whole thing. And then we're gonna do. I keep talking about it, but we are gonna do a whole show on how the opioid epidemic literally killed some of our favorite artists, talking about guys like Tom Petty and Prince and Mac Miller and Peep and Juice
Yeah.
World. These guys all fucking died from fucking opiate overdoses and drug
Right.
overdoses. So yeah, your boy Boggs just chimed in. Music is the best therapy, spilling your thoughts into a microphone. So, yeah, man, I appreciate you guys saying that because that, again, is part of the acronym for this show that has helped me not only to get clean, but stay clean, as music has been so powerful for me. I mean, those of us that get it, man, it's like a fucking spiritual thing, It really is, It's like we were
Yeah.
talking, Dustin, about these guys that can fucking freestyle. I mean, literally, my jaw hits the ground because it's like, where is this shit coming from? You're just pulling it out of thin air, and it literally
Right.
comes to life right before your eyes. It just blows my mind. Dean just put up the number to call in. If someone wants to call in and maybe ask Dustin any questions about his creative process, his journey, we would love to have you on the show. And before we do that, though, let me jump into this next thing, Dustin, because we're talking about music as therapy, and again, I keep saying this, but we did discuss this briefly before we went on the air, that you did a cover of a song called "Dear Alcohol." And Dean, if you have that short video clip, I'd like to play that. Let our listeners and our viewers, hear it, watch it, and then Dustin, I'd like to get your take on, why you decided to do that, what that song means to you, and I think it's the perfect time for us to play that. While we're here talking about music as therapy. And that was called the Alcohol Warbear Vid 10, Dean. Vid 10, Warbear Vid 10. And then after
that. Your tracks.
Cause I didn't wanna deal with myself tonight. My thoughts get drowned until I feel alright. I keep drinking till I'm someone I don't recognize. I got wasted cause I didn't wanna deal with myself tonight. My thoughts get drowned until I feel alright. I keep drinking till I'm someone I don't recognize. I got wasted. Warbear.
All right, that's just like a short little sample clip, and I love how you did that. Warbear, that's cool. But, bro, talk to us about that song. Why'd you decide to cover that one, and what were your feelings on that?
So Dax, the one who did the original song, actually was doing a big challenge for it on like a TikTok open verse type thing,
Mm-hmm.
So I entered, I put my verse up. I didn't really get much response except from my friend CJ Beretta, who's also on the song. who pretty much actually pushed me into making it a whole song, like a whole separate remix that we posted. And I'm
Right.
very thankful he did, because I got a lot of actual response from the whole remix. But personally, I've never actually struggled with alcohol because I grew up with two alcoholic parents and I seen what it
Right.
does, and I
Yep.
never wanted any part of that. But I have been one to use drugs and other things to escape myself, as I'm sure we all have at some point or another. So that's
Sure.
kind of what I tapped into for that, is the using to escape your own problems aspect.
Yeah, well, bro, I really appreciate you sharing what you just did. And for a moment there, you even reminded me of my own son, G. He's been a guest on the program. And, we talked with him about how my struggles with booze and the pills and addiction affected him. And he
Right.
basically said exactly what you did. He was like, Dad, I saw your path. And I'm like, fuck that. I don't want nothing to do with that shit, you know?
Yeah.
He could have a.
My mom died back in like 2019 already from alcohol.
Yeah, sorry to hear that, bro.
Wow.
Yeah, it just goes to show, man. I've said it on the show many times, Dustin. It affects every family, every
Right.
family one way or another. So it's kind of like what I said earlier in the show. I was a little self conscious about putting myself out there the way I have with this program. My fucking ego kicking in, like, oh God, what are people going to think of me, especially people from my professional life and all that, And it's like, fuck all that, man. Every family is affected by this shit in one way or another, And so I really appreciate you sharing your story on that. And I got to mention, man, I'm watching the chat here. Your boy, or our boy, Ace Wild, man, he wrote a powerful message in there that he's been off the pills for 6 fucking years, and
Yep.
that music literally saved his life. Bro, I'm trying not to get filled up right now. As you know, Ace, there's an old saying, when you get clean, man, when you get clean, there's good news and not so good news. The good news, all your feelings and emotions come back. The not so good news, all your feelings and emotions come back. And so when I read that,
Right.
bro, I literally was getting filled up, because that's my story too, man. It's like I can't even, not to flower it up and make it sound too mystical and all that shit, but music, I just truly feel like it helped save my life, man, and pull me out of
too.
that fucking madness I was in. So anyway, we have one more vid clip that we want to show, and I think this will be the last video, Dean. So that should be a nice relief for you. You're doing a great job, by the way, man. I couldn't ask for a better fucking producer and co-host than Dean, man. He rocks. But anyway, we were talking about alcohol. And I came across this particular video on TikTok, and this dude is just talking about how he thinks it's kind of bizarre that the alcohol companies have gotten like a free pass. He talks about Anheuser-Busch for, but any of them could, and he was like, man, I don't want to, repeat everything you're going to see in the video, but basically he says, man, the tobacco companies are like taboo as fuck right now. And we're going to be talking about in the news in a minute about the Purdue Pharmacy opioid settlement and how they're so taboo now. But the alcohol companies, they get a free pass,
Especially here in Wisconsin, man.
Yeah,
It's
oh, yeah,
crazy
you
here.
guys-
There's like 10 bars on every other block.
Yeah, well, you know what? Before we went on the air today, y'all, Dustin was telling me he's in a town right near where that '70s show, was kind of based on. What was the name
Stevens
of
Point.
it again? Yeah, Stevens Point, and so. But Dean, do you have that video
Yeah,
handy?
got it
Yeah,
right
let's
here.
go ahead and watch this real quick.
You know what's amazing to me is how the people who make alcohol get a free ride. It's incredible to me that, like, if I said to you that I was on the board of Philip Morris, you would say, "That's Malcolm. That's pretty screwed up."
Yeah,
and you'd have a problem with it. If I said that, I'm on the board of Anheuser-Busch, you probably would hit me up for tickets to the Super Bowl, right? It's just not the same. Whereas there's no. In terms of the amount of social damage, what Anheuser-Busch has created has produced 100 times the social damage than what Philip Morris has produced.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
sure.
So it's like, I've always puzzled about it. I don't know how it got it in our heads, like to treat one like it's completely taboo and the other we kind of shrug.
Yeah, we kind of shrug, and I'll say this, Dustin, and I'll be curious to get your feeling on it. And Dean, I appreciate you putting that up. There's another example of Dustin's skills as a graphic artist, man. This is fucking awesome, bro. You really do got skills beyond rapping and singing, man. Yeah, this is great. So if any of y'all are looking to have a logo created or any graphic design work, this is just one sample of your stuff, right, Dustin?
Yep, or mixing and mastering. I do all my own mixing and mastering too, and I offer that as a service as well.
Right on. Well, Dean, I also sent you a pic, and if you find it, of the comments that people were leaving on that video we just watched. And, while you're looking for that, I want to say, Dustin, I've mentioned on this show many times that I'm talking, a lot about the opioid epidemic and drug addiction and stuff. And I've said many times, I'm not here to go after people who are on pain meds, who are taking them legit, and taking them as prescribed or whatever. I'm here, I'm not trying to alienate anyone. And like even sometimes political things will come up, and I often will say, hey, I have an opinion. Everybody's got one, but I'm not here to debate my opinion on this show. That's not the purpose of this show. We're trying to help people, man. So, my opinion don't matter. But, what I'm saying is we're not going after people's pain meds, but if you want to get off them, that's something that we might be able to help you with the things we talk about on this show. And part of the reason I bring that up is because it's the same thing with booze. Fuck, if you want to drink and you can handle your shit, knock yourself out, man. Don't fuck bother me and drink away. I like drinking NA beers, not like everybody involved in NA or AA are a fan of that. Some don't think it's a good thing at all, but I know people in the programs, 12-step programs, there's some that swear by that shit. Like, oh, God, if it wasn't for fucking old duels or Heine Zeros, I don't even know if I'd be sober right now because that's what I used to, because I used to drink beer all the time. And I don't drink them all the time, but I like having them from time to time, especially if I go out in a social setting or whatever. So, the point I'm making is we talked about your song, Dear Alcohol. We showed that video we just showed about how the dude's saying, alcohol companies get a free pass. And, you think about things like even prohibition. They tried outlawing alcohol. That ain't never going to fucking happen. It ain't going away, I always say, Dustin, they had that shit backwards. They should have outlawed alcohol and legalized pot, and thank God
I absolutely agree.
Yeah. Thank God they're finally becoming loose on the pot laws. It's a fucking plant. It's
not here.
Yeah. Oh, not in Wisconsin yet?
So Minnesota, Illinois, and Michigan are all recreational legal. Wisconsin is still completely illegal.
Oh, my God.
Not even medical.
Not even medical, because, Dean, in Florida, it's medical still, right? It's not recreational yet. But
I don't know.
Yeah, Dean.
But I've heard because the bars and shit, the Tavern League funnels so much money into keeping weed illegal because they're scared of losing their alcohol money.
Oh, right. Yeah, there's a lot of politics involved. You're exactly right, Well, Dean, I appreciate you bringing this photo up just because I thought it was interesting. Obviously, you can see at the top, it says there were 177 comments on that video at the time I captured it. And so these are just a few comments, but almost all of them that I scrolled through, I didn't go through all of them, but the ones I did look at were agreeing with the dude. You can see at the top, this dude says, absolutely correct. Next guy says, I didn't realize how ingrained alcohol is in our culture until he quit drinking. Doesn't matter what the event, alcohol's there. And you remember, Dean, last week on the show, Dustin, I did a shout out to this company in Jackson, Michigan, that they started this little company, man, where they have this really cool mobile bar that they built on this trailer, but all they serve is alcohol-free drinks. They have what they call like mocktails,
Right.
And, and I'm assuming they have like NA beers and stuff like that because, I think sometimes people go to social events and there's nothing available for them to drink other than alcohol drinks. And then they end up getting all fucked up, which was never their intention in the first place. And then even worse, then they got to drive. you know. And so a lot of times people say, well, hey, that's my business if I ain't bothering nobody else. Well, when you get behind the wheel of a fucking car, that's affecting other people, you know.
Yeah, so funny story, actually. On the way home from that show where I opened up for King ISO, my buddy was asleep in the passenger seat. I was driving.
Right.
We passed somebody on the highway in oncoming traffic in the left lane of the highway while we were in the right.
Ow.
I seen the next day, dude was arrested for his 5th offense OWI.
Oh,
Fifth
wow.
one. Wow.
So I could have died. I could have been dead right there.
Bro, it happens all day, every day, man. It happens all day, every day, you know. And that's a topic, I don't want to go too far into it, but in my professional life, bro, I worked for a company in Central Florida where, and I've talked about it on this show, they were one of the providers of the DUI training. And in fact, I know he won't mind me mentioning it, that's how I met Kasky for the first time. He was very public about it, that he got a DUI, and he was there to enroll for his class, and I was coming back from lunch, and, you know, I was clean-cut All-American Glenn with a shirt and tie and blazer,
That's
and I walk in the
cool.
fucking lobby, and my son actually originally turned me on to Kasky's music. They went to the same middle school, this place, Indian Trails in Winter Springs, Florida. And I think they're like a grade or so apart. And they were like buddies, but, you know, Glenn knew who he was. And a lot of people knew who he was because, you know, he was rapping and selling CD. And then, of course, as you know, he was signed by Birdman and all that. So Glenn turned me on to his music. And, man, I just fell in love with the dude. And I remember thinking, like, who's this white boy think he is? You know, I come from Detroit, man. I know I'm a real one. And then I start listening to his shit, and I'm like, fuck. So we ended up going to a show of his at a place downtown in Orlando. What the hell? I don't know if it was Firestone or wherever it was. And that's it, man. I've been riding with him ever since, you know. And so the point I'm making is I came back from lunch at this company I was working for at the time, and he was waiting in line in the lobby, and I walked past him, and I'm going, damn, that looks like that boy Kasky. And so I'm standing at the elevator, and I couldn't resist. I look over my shoulder, and I had to go up to him. I go, you Kasky, ain't you? And he was like shocked that I knew who he was because I'm, you know, quite a bit older than him. And he's like, who's this fucking old dude, you know, asking who I am and shit. And so he asked me if he could, you know, get something for his social media. I'm like, hell yeah. And so he put it out there, bro. My phone started burning up that night from all these people who knew, like me and my son, that followed him, that I had no idea. And they were like, damn, you got to meet Kasky. And I'm like, oh, yeah, whatever. And so anyhow, I thought you'd get a kick out of that story, but yeah,
it's crazy how stuff like that happens.
Yeah. Well, you know what, Dustin? Had that not happened, you and I wouldn't even be right here doing this show right now, because I probably never would have went to the summit, ever met you. You get the idea, bro. It's just like that domino effect fate that we were talking about. And then, you know, it's interesting, too, how our stories have had this parallel, because I was all fucked up using, and clearly he was having some challenges at the time. And now, as you know, he's living clean. I'm clean again. You know, your boy Ace is clean. You know, I think, man, you know, we all kind of woke up because there was a time, as you know, Dustin, and I'd like to get your take on this, you know. There was I don't know, what, maybe a, you know, even 5 year, 6 year, maybe even a 10-year period where in the rap game, glorifying using was like the thing, man. You know, you had, you know, kids like Lil Xan and Peep and all, you know, may he rest in peace. You know, I loved Peep stuff, man. I still bump it all the time. But the point I'm making is there was a lot of glorifying using lean and all that shit. And all these fucking people start dying, man. And it seems like there's been a little bit of a shift where, you know, now it's kind of more like a positive message, like even that stuff Kasky put out there with, you know, this isn't even my final form, and you doing that tune, you know, Dear Alcohol. What's your feeling on that?
Personally, I feel the mainstream still absolutely pushes that agenda of drinking lean and getting fucked up and doing pills and all that kind of shit. I feel we as people have just decided to make the switch to listen to better artists like Kasky.
Yeah.
But as far as like the mainstream goes, I still think that's the pushing message that they're going for.
Yeah. Well, hey, listen, we've kind of gone almost full circle. I do got a couple more things that I wanted to talk about, Dustin, and I hope you hang around for it.
Oh, yeah.
I want to go into a couple things. There was a big news story this past week that I want to talk about. But while I'm talking about that, I'd just like to invite anybody to call in. We'd love to have somebody call in. Like I know your boy Ace has been riding with us for the whole show. Ace, call in, man. Let's get you on the show.
Yeah,
Looks like
get
we
your
got
ass on here.
I think we got about 15 people watching right now. I'm seeing. And hey,
Yeah,
Phil
that's-
just joined in the
yep.
chat.
What's up, Phil?
Hey,
Welcome
Phil.
to the show. Yeah. So hopefully somebody calls in here soon. We got to get somebody. Shivang, Neela, if you're watching, I'd love for you to call in. We want somebody to call in. So anyway, Dean, let's talk about the news. We did have a big story in the news this past week, y'all. We've been waiting for this. It was a court agreement with Purdue Pharmacy. It was a year in March that Purdue agreed to pay $6 billion with a B. And Dean, I sent you a shit ton of pictures because I wanted people to see the different publications' headlines, because I don't want anyone to think I'm giving you like fake news, because there are liberal papers and there's conservative papers, but they all basically had the same headline. And so I want people to see that I looked at a variety of them. I'm not trying to put just one out there. But it was a year ago in March that Purdue Pharmacy agreed to a $6 billion settlement that they would pay out to help with this mess that they created. And certainly were the main catalyst. There were other pharmacies too. And this $6 billion is going to go to different programs, prevention programs, treatment programs for opioid addiction. Also, families who had someone die as a result of an opiate addiction will get a piece of it. People whose lives were destroyed by it. So here's one from the Huffington Post. Billionaire Sackler family. That's the family behind Purdue Pharmacy. And this was the big settlement. And I probably should expand that even though they made this agreement a year ago to pay out $6 billion, Dustin, not a fucking dime of it has been distributed yet because they were waiting for this court settlement where now the Sackler family got what they wanted, immunity, meaning they cannot be prosecuted or face any further lawsuits, or they said they weren't going to fucking distribute the money. How
Hey,
fucked
Glenn,
up
we
is
have a
that?
caller on the
Okay,
line.
yeah, let's bring who's on the line.
Hello, this is Ace Wild.
Ace Wild! Welcome to the show, bro. Thanks for calling in. And by the way, man, congratulations on the 6 years, man. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you being open and sharing that with us on the show today.
Absolutely, brother. Hey, I really, really appreciate that. This podcast is so cool, man. Like I'm loving every second of it.
Oh, bro, thank you for saying that. But like I said, if you've been following along, man, this is our show. I'm just the guy running his mouth, and I can't wait to see. I hope you go to the next Future of Artists Summit. Like I said, I heard Anonymous is already planning it, and hopefully you'll make it out there for the next one too,
Hey, man, that's the plan. I'd love to go back. That thing, I mean, you said it already. That was life-changing, man. It opened my eyes and just networking. And it's just a bunch of like-minded people in one spot. And it's just one of the dopest things ever.
You ready for another 24-hour drive?
Yes, sir. We'll make it no matter what.
Yeah, well, you know what? That was a video clip I did pull. We didn't play that one, but, where you were talking about the summit and you had just got back from 28 hours in the car, and I thought to myself, damn, now that's commitment, man, because I flew. I flew there and rented a car. You guys drove all the way from Wisconsin to Orlando and back to be there for that thing. That's pretty powerful. So, hey, Ace, let me ask you this. Since you called in, we could have asked Dustin this, but I'm going to ask you since we got you on the line. How did you two start collabing together? Because some of the stuff you guys have done together, man, you fucking are awesome, bro. You are so talented. Blows my mind. What you got there, Dustin? What's that all about?
It was my Artist of the Year award for CW Hip Hop, but that's pretty much actually how we met, was through this podcast.
Oh, right on. Yeah, and that was part of that one pick Dean had up earlier. I was going to ask you about that you were voted Hip Hop Artist of the Year in 2022, and what was, what that was all about. But I want to hear Ace's perspective since we got him on the line. You know, how'd you guys start working together, Ace, and what's your process, bro?
Yeah, so CW Hip Hop out here in Wisconsin, they're kind of our local hip hop station. It's our like big push in the state, just because hip hop's it hasn't really ever been a big thing around here. But I feel like we're definitely making a movement with those guys, and obviously me and Warbear, we work together so much. If I'm not mistaken, Warbear, your first rap show ever, that's the first place we ever met. Yeah, that's exactly how we met.
Right on. And so are you guys working on additional collabs? Do you envision more collabs coming? What do you think,
Yeah, for sure. We have a double EP we're working on recording right now, and I mean there's plenty of other songs in the work aside from that as well. So I mean we got probably 15 we're working on right now, plus there will definitely be more.
So Ace, are you out there doing live performances like Dustin is as well? And do y'all sometimes get on the same bill and shit?
Yes, sir. It's pretty much every show that we get on together at this point, man. I mean, he threw me up on stage to help him open up for King ISO. We've got a show here in a couple weeks at that same venue, opening up for somebody else that we know. And, we've just been on the show grind for the last year, and we just keep getting booked, and I absolutely love it.
Well, that is awesome. And Ace, I'll tell you what, bro, I would love to have you as a featured guest on the show if you'd be open to it, at some point in the not too distant future, because, I would love to hear your story of getting off them fucking pills because believe me, I know, bro, it ain't no joke. I say on here all the time, man, because I have a long history with addiction, Ace, when I was a younger man, I got caught up in the whole fucking cocaine thing in the 80s, and I walked in my first NA meeting just shy of 25, and I stayed clean for almost 17 years, bro, and then I had a horrible relapse on the booze. We were talking about the booze earlier, and that relapse lasted over 5 years. I've smoked a little weed in there and shit, but it was mainly just the booze. Ended up in a rehab center up in Michigan, this place called Brighton. That's where that boy Marshall went through, believe it or not, when he got clean. Eminem did. Same treatment center, man. I got out of there. That was a good experience for me. I stayed clean again for over 6 fucking years. And then that's when I broke my ankle and got hooked on the pain meds. And at the end of that run, dude, I was snorting fucking heroin when I would get dope sick and I couldn't get pills. I would do the heroin just so I wouldn't be sick. And it's a fucking miracle I didn't die because, God only knows what they're cutting that shit now with the fentanyl and the xylazine and every other fucking thing. And so the point I'm making, not to get into my long story about it again, but Ace, going through those opiate withdrawals, the reason I say that is I used to think I knew what being dope sick was. I used to think that, going through my coke withdrawal, my booze withdrawal, all that shit. I had no fucking idea. Going through opiate withdrawals, and I was doing benzos too. I had to come off them at the same time. It was the worst experience of my entire life. So when I say you sharing that you've been off the pills for 6 years hit me, it did, bro. And I appreciate you sharing that because that's an inspiration to not just me, but I'm sure anybody else watching or listening to the show. So I'd love to have you on to hear more of your story if you'd be willing to share it with us,
Absolutely, brother. No question. I would love to.
Yeah. Well, hey, man, we'll move on, and I just can't thank you enough for calling in, Ace. Really, I appreciate it, man. I'm glad we had some audience participation today, bro. Thanks again,
Love you,
man.
Bro.
Yeah, we'll
hey,
talk
love
to you
too.
again.
Hey. Appreciate you guys having me on. Thank you.
You bet. Peace, bro. Well, hey, Dean, I did want to just spend a little bit more time on that opiate settlement. So if you want to bring up a couple more picks real quick, because, I don't want to let the Sacklers off that easy. You know what I mean? The infamous Sackler family. So, yeah, they did win this appeal. It was an appeal. that, like this headline says from Pharmalot, that shields them from opioid lawsuits, clearing the way for their bankruptcy settlement because they filed bankruptcy, And now, I guess, there's good news, not so good news. Yeah, okay, nobody can go after them personally, and they're filing bankruptcy and all that shit. But at least the $6 billion will start to be distributed now. And yeah, Dean, there were like 4 or 5 of them pictures. If you want to just shotgun through them, that's fine. At least the $6 billion, which, is really a drop of water in the ocean, a grain of sand in the desert. A couple of weeks ago, we had a criminal defense attorney, Dennis Salvaggio, on, who was saying that's like nothing, man, compared to the profit they made and are still making off of this.
Yeah.
This picture here is interesting, Dean. Leave this one up for a second. You can see this guy is chiseling the name Sackler off of this building because that was part of the settlement, believe it or not. This is how fucking crazy it is, man. It's like this onion with these layers you start peeling away. That was part of the settlement, that all these buildings that had their name on it, that they did supposedly these, entrepreneurial or philanthropic things, was all fucking smoke and mirrors. Meanwhile, they were selling the whole country up the river, saying their medication wasn't addictive, when really it's just heroin in pill form, an opiate's an opiate, it's an opiate, it's just like booze. I don't give a fuck if you're drinking wine, beer, or liquor. It's all alcohol, and it's the same thing with opiates.
Funny thing is that they're, they got looks like they got their corporate blanket covering them.
Yeah,
that's the corporation. You have a corporation because you want that corporate blanket. And of course, when you're dealing with something that definitely crossed state lines, so that's not just trafficking. That's that's criminal. I don't know. Dennis would have been the guy, but they can get you on racketeering. There's the word, racketeering, because they're doing business across state lines. So I can't imagine, how they managed to get away from that, seeing as though these guys made billions of dollars on this stuff,
Dean,
and got away from the whole racketeering,
Well,
claims.
You know what it is, Dean? It's what they call white-collar crime. And sometimes this white-collar crime, it's more fucking vicious and kills more people than some, what we would call like a punk on the street in the hood. They get such a bad rap, when they're out there rough. I'm not trying to make excuses for somebody who does something wrong. Point I'm making is we all have this fear of, the thug in the hood, when these fucking white-collar crooks and criminals are killing more people than anybody who robbed the liquor store in the hood did. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, I don't know. I don't mean to go on, but yeah, this is from the AP. So again, I wanted to show a variety of news sources, so y'all didn't think we were trying to slant it one way or another. They all pretty much covered it the same way. Ruling clears the way for Purdue Pharma to settle opioid claims and protect.
Now, is that federal court? I guess.
Yeah. That was a fed.
That would have been federal
appeal.
court.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, it says right there in that article, a federal appeals court. So anyway. All that said, we try to keep the show current, Dustin, talk about current events and things in the news. So that was the big story this past week that a lot of us that keep up with this kind of stuff were, quite frankly, really waiting for. So like I said, it's kind of a good news, not so good news thing. They're free of, additional lawsuits and prosecution, but at least that $6 billion will start to get distributed now and hopefully make some kind of difference in saving people's lives. Because here's something, Dustin.
One more.
Yeah, one more there. Court grants Sackler family immunity in exchange. We say it in the promo for this show, dude, based on the current stats, Dustin, and we don't make these numbers up. These are, government research agencies from the CDC and shit. We're coming up on, an hour and a half that we've been doing this show. By the time we wrap up in about 5 to 10 minutes here, whew, fuck, man. I'm trying not to get filled up again talking about it. 8 to 10 people will have died from an opiate overdose by the time we finish this show in 10 minutes.
I heard that on the intro, and I never thought about it like that. That's crazy.
Hey, I see Neela just chimed in. He said, hey, man, and so, hey, bro, call in, man. We got time for one more caller, Shebang. Pick up that goddamn phone and call us, man. I want you to get a chance to say hey to Dustin before we wrap it up, Deed, if you want to put the number up again. So anyway, let's transition from that topic, which quite frankly is, kind of a sad topic, that whole, thing with the opioid overdoses and, like I said, mixed bag of tricks on the settlement. But we always try to wrap the show up on kind of a positive, humorous.
Here we go.
So we had a, is he calling in? Okay, cool. Dustin, this is Shebang, goes by the stage name Neela, and I hope you remember him from the summit. Is that Shebang on the line?
Yes, sir. Can you boys hear me?
What up, bro?
Yeah.
I hear you fine. What's the weather like in Detroit City today?
Oh, honestly, the last 2 days, it actually wasn't bad. Surprisingly sunny and, doing good over here.
Yeah, summertime in Detroit.
Podcast, because it's like, there we go. Cool.
Well, you know what? I'll tell you, Shebang, I've often said, man, I love summers in Michigan. It's the fucking winters I couldn't stand,
Mm-hmm.
Probably about the same in Wisconsin, right? But anyway, Shebang, so you've been riding with us the whole show today, right?
Yes, sir. I've been chiming in and out. I've been watching the little playoffs game. By the way, your team Miami just came back on the 1-1 tie for the playoffs.
I am a big Heat fan. Dustin, in case you didn't know, my son, Glenn Jr., he lives in Miami. Him and his wife, Awana, live there. And, in fact, she is from Romania. And they got married a few years ago. And, she's a full U.S. citizen now and all that. And but being that she's from Romania, shout out to all our viewers and listeners in Romania. And then she's got friends in London, too, because she was a flight attendant for British Airways for like about 7 years and lived in London. And I met a lot of her friends, at the wedding and that. And so I know we have people from London that watch and listen to the show, too. So, yeah.
Well, hey, I'm trying to collab with the UK rappers. So if you guys know any rappers over there in the UK, tell them hit me up.
There you go. We are worldwide. But anyway, Shebang, man, that was one of the things I want to talk about briefly on the show today. We were talking about the Future of Artists Summit, and I messaged Anonymous this morning. I sent him the reel. I did a promo reel for Dustin being on today, and I actually sent him those pics, too, of the girls at Planet Fitness. And I mentioned in the DM I sent him, I said, bro, so many cool things came out of that summit, like this interview we're doing with Dustin today. And one of the other things I was thinking about is, as you know, Shebang, you came out of there so fired up, you ended up putting a whole fucking CD out there, man, a compilation of stuff. And I just think it's awesome. So,
yes, sir. Yep. Yeah, man. I feel like that summit was just like a seed planted into the universe, and it's spreading all the connections. Everybody's tapping in with each other, showing love, so that was beautiful, man. And like, I'm honestly so grateful that I got the ability to go, because Glenn might not have shared on the podcast, but I wasn't too familiar with Caskey's music until I met Glenn, and he kind of put me on. When he first put me on, you know how it is. There's so many artists in the world, right? When people tell me, I'm like, all right, man, I'll check it out. You know, but I slowly, as I spent more time with Glenn, I started checking it out. And I remember we were driving together to Grand Rapids to go to a recovery convention. And that's when Caskey dropped his last Final Form one. And man, when I listened to that, bro, that really, that definitely touched my spirit, and just meeting him and meeting all the people there, it definitely was a very eye-opening experience. Grateful.
I agree.
Well, Shebang, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you sharing that story, and I have to elaborate on it just a little bit, you guys, because it really kind of fucking blows my mind. So what Shebang said is all accurate and true. I had kind of turned him on to his music like, bro, you got to check out this boy Caskey, man. He's so fucking awesome, blah, blah, blah. So the rest of the story is that Shebang's correct. We were driving to Grand Rapids to go to an NA convention. It was the Michigan convention. They do it every year, 4th of July weekend. So we're driving up there to go to this thing. And I just happened to have known that Caskey was just dropping this new Not My Final Form release.
Right.
So we're driving up there, and I'm like, hey, man, Caskey dropped some new music today. Let's check it out since we got a couple-hour drive on the road here. And he's like, yeah, put that shit on, bro. And we had no fucking idea that it was like an album or a CD, whatever the fuck you want to call it, that was all about recovery. Like Sinner Like Me and Rock Bottom. If you know those tunes, they are fucking recovery tunes for people struggling with addiction, And as we know, and Caskey's been very open about, he gave up vices and is living clean now. And so if you remember, Shebang, we're driving down the road and I'm looking at you and you're looking at me. We're on our way to a fucking Narcotics Anonymous convention to,
Talk
work
about
on, trying to keep
man.
staying clean. And just randomly we say, hey, Caskey's got some new shit out. Let's put it on and see what it sounds like. And here the guy's fucking rapping about, recovery and staying clean. And I just thought it was so fucking bizarre and ironic that that's what it was about, why we were going to this NA convention, man. It just, there's like this weird, I don't know, he probably might think I'm a fucking stan or a fangirl, but there's like this weird connection I seem to have with this guy's aura and energy, you know what I mean? And I tell you, man, I told him once, where the hell were we? I'm trying to remember. I think it might have been on one of them, the one-on-one call. Yeah, it was when we were talking with Tyler, and I said, bro, I got to a point where I've had to learn, even just talking with you, Dustin, and I don't mean to minimize, your status. I get starstruck by you guys because you're so fucking talented, even with you, Shivang, and we're like bros, like, you know what I'm saying? And I see you guys, like we were talking about you earlier, Shivang, and how you're able to just freestyle just blows my mind. And the point I'm making is I had to get to a point, and I mentioned this with Caskey, where I have to separate the music from the artist, or I just get too starstruck and I get flustered and shit. And he made me feel good about it because he goes, I'm paraphrasing, but he said something like, oh, I can relate, man. Yeah, I've been the same way with certain artists I've met. It's like, hey, they're just another person, but the music, as we've had people even say in the chat, it saved their life. It's so powerful for some of us.
Yeah.
And like this spiritual experience. And then you meet these people that created this music that has such a powerful connection for you that it's hard not to fucking be, a stan or a fangirl. So I've really had to learn to separate the artist from the music, because just like even that tune you just put out last Friday, Dustin, that Hate tune, fucking blows my mind. That fucking tune is awesome, man. I just love it, And
Appreciate
so I'm just so grateful that you joined us on the show today so that we could kind of see this other side to you. And
hey guys, I'm gonna hijack for 1 minute here.
Yeah,
okay.
Go right ahead.
Because earlier when you did some shout outs, and I'm gonna go back to him, Jose Sanchez.
Yeah,
you put this up. That's my boy. He started interning with me at my studio about 6 weeks ago, about 2 months ago.
Wow, no kidding.
Yeah,
Wow.
The guy is a recent graduate from Full Sail.
Oh yeah. Full
he
Sail's
is an amazing. He's a composer. He makes music.
Wow.
And this guy is. I have just. I said, man. First thing I asked him when he played his music for me, I was like, I said, is there anybody remotely at your level coming out of Full Sail? And he said, no. I mean, he wasn't being like, that egotistic. This is the most down-to-earth kid I've ever met in my life.
Right.
He comes into my studio because there's a Hispanic radio station right across from my podcast studio.
Yeah.
And he comes in, and he actually, this woman brought him in with his wife, and she's pictured here in the photo. They come in, and she goes, and I'm like, I'm not hiring a music guy or a sound guy. I'm really not. And we talked a bit, showed him around the studio. And then by the 10 minutes later, I hired him. I said, dude, just come in. Yeah, I'm going to teach you podcasting. I'm going to teach you whatever you need to do. He needs to work. And I hadn't even heard his music at that point. And then when I got to know him, then there's a website, and it's killing me that I can't go to the website because I would share the link. But he's on Facebook. Reach out to him. I'll post a link in the chat in the comments, and I'll do that right now. But reach out to him on Facebook, and I got to tell you, I'm going to have him cut a song, redo a song for me for a TV show that I'm shooting this summer. So I'm posting his Facebook link right here in the podcast. Guys, reach out to him, man. This kid is crazy talented. You know, I almost hate to be hiring him as a podcaster just because I don't want to take him away from that, you know.
Well, Dean, I was just joking around about fangirling, and that sounds like what you're doing.
Yeah. I'm teaching him things that, you know, podcasting and stuff like that. But
yeah, I get it.
Man, I was just working with him this morning. I hired him to work a podcast with me this morning.
We got to have him on the show sometime. And yeah, it's interesting because he reached out to me and sent me a DM, and I'm going, Jesus Christ, we got a guy from Mexico City, and here he ends up being a guy
I told him about the podcast.
Too.
I told him about the podcast, and he was interested. So he did.
Hey, bro,
he did reach out. I'm really. I wish he'd have jumped in and.
We'll get him on a future episode for sure. And
I'm like, you put this up, or we put this up earlier, and I'm in show mode, so I'm not even. It didn't even click with me, and then all of a sudden I go, oh wait.
Yeah, I know that guy, right? Well, hey, like I said, man, let's reach out to him and maybe get him on the show. Do we still got Shebang on the line?
I'm here.
Oh, okay. Well, hey, I just wanted to say, Shebang, I really, really appreciate you calling in, bro. And Dean, you mentioned that boy Jose went to Full Sail.
Yep.
And Dustin, I don't know if you remember, but we showed a picture earlier in the show. There's a kid, Brendan Fields, that was sitting at the table with me and Shebang in the Future of Artists Summit. He was the kid in the middle. He went to Full Sail too, and that's a real high-profile, like a music production artist school. Yeah, very expensive, right in Orlando. But there's people who've come out of there have won Grammys and shit, and not just artists. I'm talking like producers. Well, of course, producers are artists, but you know what I mean. So we got to get Brendan on the show sometime, too. You know what I mean? We've done a shout-out to him a few times. But
shout-out YHB, baby.
Yeah, YHB. But anyway, Shebang, man, thank you so much for calling in, bro. And, yeah, man, thanks for reminding me about that game. I am missing the game today. I'm rooting for Miami. You know, nothing against, the Nuggets, man. I got a niece and nephew that live in Denver. What a great city. I love Denver, man.
I love Denver.
Got to root for Miami, man. And I'm also rooting for the Panthers, because they got, they're both South Florida teams. Panthers in the Stanley Cup and the Heat in the NBA Finals. So, we'll try to wrap it up. And, before we do, though, thanks again, Shebang, for calling in. I'll talk to you soon, bro.
Appreciate you, boys,
hey,
man.
If you want to make some music, man, hit me up.
Yeah, you guys should
collab.
I'm
about to tap
in
with you. I just followed you on IG, my dog. So
I'll get you back as soon as we're done here.
Y'all should definitely do a collab. And by the way, Dustin, Shebang's brother also is this talented artist. Oh my God. And you want to check out some music, anybody listening or watching right now, go check out Rarehearted. He's a talented artist, just by himself, but he's also part of this really cool group, and they're all young guys, right around 20, and they've been performing together for several years. And you want to talk about fresh new music, and I mean right off the streets of Detroit, y'all. Check them out. And you might be surprised because you're probably thinking, oh, shit, that's going to be some hard-ass shit coming at you fresh off the streets of Detroit. And they have some stuff like that. They also are very versatile and eclectic with their style. They do a lot of different stuff. And, yeah, bro, check them out. Rarehearted, y'all. So, anyway, let's go. Let's kind of wrap it up with a couple humorous things. I think I sent Dean like 4 funny memes. So, let's go ahead and do that. Which one you want to pull up here first, Dean? I get, I'm sure like anybody on social media, I get all these funny memes that come up in my feed all week. And so I just thought it's kind of let's go back to that other one because, I want to see the other one that you just had. We couldn't see, you got the thing covering up the There it is. So you see him chasing this rhino, and somebody put a mic in. He says, "Yeah, I was drunk that day." How many of us have ever said that when we wake up the next day? Well, I was really drunk at the time, or I was fucked up last. Like it's an excuse, like it's a viable excuse. So anyway, I just thought that one was kind of funny. And then the next one, since we're talking about dogs, I just thought was kind of funny. You had it up there a second ago, Dean.
Oh, sorry.
Where this this baby and this dog are talking. This is an oldie but a goodie, where the baby's saying, "You telling me if I pee in the yard, I get a treat?" I just always thought that one was kind of funny. And then I think there were a couple more. So, yeah, if anybody sees any funny memes during the week and you want to get them on the show, just send them to me in my DM. We'll put them on. I am a night person, Dustin, and I noticed in the one video, I really appreciated that you put that out there where you said, "Hey, man, when you're an artist, bro, you work weird hours and you go to bed at even weirder hours, And I've just always been a night person, and a lot of that
Me
comes...
too.
Yeah, a lot of that comes from working in clubs and bars for so many years. You're there till 2:30 in the morning, and a lot of times then you go out to eat with everybody afterwards or whatever. Sometimes you don't get fucking home till 6 in the morning or whatever, and sleep till noon or whatever. So I just always thought that I've seen this one before. I could be a morning person if morning happened around noon, and I bet you can relate to that too, eh? So
I'm usually up till noon.
Yeah, there you go. So, and then I think there was one more, Dean. There was this last one. Oh, yeah, I thought this was a good way to end it on. Every family has one weird relative. If you don't know who it is, it's probably you. And you know what? I appreciate you pointing at yourself, Dustin, because isn't it true? The best humor is when we can laugh at and make fun of ourselves. I'm the youngest of 6 kids. And I sometimes joke, I've said on this program, God damn, no wonder my dad drank so much. 6 fucking kids, and I was one of them. You know what I mean?
Right.
But,
so you were the straw that broke the camel's back, huh?
Well, here's how it is. I got 4 older sisters and a brother older than me. And I just, I think most youngest kids will tell you that all their siblings kind of broke the parents in for them. And by the time I got old enough to go out and be a rebel rouser, they were just like, just try to make it home safe by the end of the day. I pretty much did whatever the fuck I wanted to. They were like over it by the time we got to the 6th kid,
Right.
And so, yeah, I'm sure all my siblings would agree, that if you don't know who the weird one is, it's probably you. And you know what? I think for most artistic people, we just are that way. You know what I mean?
We're the black sheep.
Yeah, we are. Exactly. The black sheep cult. And Dustin, that's a great way, I think, to end the program, bro, because we're family, man. Like you said, anyone who attended that Future of Artists Summit knows what we're talking about, man. We all are. We're family, and, black sheep for life, man. I got my shirt on and all that. And you know what? I can't wait to get that boy Kasky on the program. When I did that conference call with him, he agreed he'd be on the show, and, anonymous, too. So, I kind of, like I was saying earlier, I wanted to get, a certain amount of episodes out of the way, flush out any bugs we might have had in the system, and I think we're there. And you know what, Dean? I'll just say it again, bro. I can't thank you enough, man. You fucking rock. You really are a rock star.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you say, Dustin? I mean,
it's all caffeine right now. So
well, but everything
it's all right.
did. Yeah.
Hey, I posted Jose's music website, gelbasedmusic.com. It's in the chats. There's a link there. So you guys should check it out. Give it a minute to listen, and if you like it, then you'll know how to get a hold of him. He's Orlando now, so.
Yeah, well, I'm going to check it out, and hopefully everybody else does too. And like I said, Dean, we'd like to get him on the show sometime, man.
He's a pretty shy guy. He's a shy guy.
We'll get him out of his shell.
And he's young. I mean, this is a young kid.
Yeah. Well, hey, Dustin, I can't thank you enough for riding with us this whole show, man. You have been like such a great guest. You're an awesome interview, man. And like I said, I don't mean to keep, tooting your horn, but you really are a talented artist. As I often say to like kids like Shebang, I call him kid because I'm older. He's in 20s. I don't even know if you realize just how talented you are. Like that tune you just dropped Friday fucking blows my mind, man, and I'll tell you, man, I had a boss a long time ago. Dean met him, this guy Tom, may he rest in peace, but he was a real entrepreneur, man, and I used to think of him almost like a second dad, and I loved working for him because he had that entrepreneurial spirit, I worked for some guys after him who weren't that way. It was like they didn't have that entrepreneurial spirit because to them it was like, fuck, if we do that, man, that's just going to mean more work, Tom wasn't like that. His old saying, the reason I bring him up is he used to say, Glenn, let's just keep throwing shit at the wall till something sticks. You just never know what's going to stick. And we start creating a whole new line of revenue, And so I kind of think of, the music and the art that way, man. You just keep doing shit and you just never know what might happen. But at the end of the day, I think it comes down to like what was said at the summit. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to walk on you there, but, Kasky and Anonymous both said, if you're in that shit for the money, you're in it for the wrong reason, man. You got to be in it for the passion. And if you really do it passionately and from the heart, the money will come. It'll come eventually. And when you keep putting shit out like what you released Friday, bro, man, the future looks bright. I'll tell you that, man. So,
well, I appreciate that a lot, man. I personally have always struggled with believing in myself. It's getting easier, but I still struggle with it for sure. So hearing things like that definitely helps me feel a little bit better about it all.
Yeah, well, bro, I just, again, can't thank you enough for being on the podcast with us today. Want to thank everybody in the chat who's been right. Oh, looks like your boy Jose just chimed in on the chat.
I've been texting him, so yes.
Well, hey, Jose, welcome to the show, man. And, boy, Dean had a lot of good things to say about you, man, and we hope to have you on sometime to talk to you about your music and all that,
I'm going to be his agent. I'm going to be his agent.
He'd probably love to hear Dustin say hi to him,
Hey, Jose. Good to have you, bro.
Yeah, say that, well, hey, Jose, I'm glad you got in right before we wrapped up because we are about to wrap the show up. And I see we still got like 10 or 11 people viewing that have been riding with us the whole show.
Great.
We appreciate y'all sticking with us. Everybody in the chat. Ace and Boggs and Shebang, Neela, Jose, Phil. Who was the other guy? What is that? Prism? What is that, Dustin? You probably know.
Oh, Prism. Yeah. He's playing that show next Friday with me.
Oh, yeah. So
he's from the area too. He's actually part of CW Hip Hop.
Oh, right on. Yep. So we just want to thank everybody. And, of course, for those that come across the recorded version of the show that didn't get to catch us live today.
Sucks for you.
Yeah, well, we hope you enjoy, watching the recorded version and that you find it entertaining. And before I wrap it up, Dustin, anything else you want to add before we close the show out?
I'm thankful for you having me. I appreciate you guys so much. I'm thankful I got to go to the Future of Artists Summit. I've made a lot of connections there. I have songs out with a couple of those people and more songs coming with people from there. So just go follow me, Dustin Warbear, on all platforms. It's right there in the chat thing.
Yeah.
And then, I put out new music every Friday. I got shows pretty frequently lately. And I'm just thankful for everybody that's riding with me and everybody that's been showing me love.
All right. Well, Dustin Warbear, our guest on the Dare Me podcast today. You rock, brother. Thank you again. And like I said earlier, hopefully we can have you back on the show again down the road.
Anytime, brother.
Yeah, and we're definitely going to be reaching out to some of the more of the artists from the Future of Artists Summit. I'd love to get that boy Ace on here, too, and talk to him about
sure he's
his
willing.
Story. Yeah, Muncie. And so, anyway, well, that does it for another edition of the Dare Me podcast, y'all. And I just like wrapping the show up by saying again, our focus today obviously was talking a lot about music. Like we heard from people viewing and in the chat and even things I shared on here, it's so powerful in helping someone struggling with a drug addiction. We had a couple people in the chat say it literally helped save their life. Same with me, y'all. It helped me through, and Dustin says him too, helped me through my struggles with addiction. It helped me while I was kicking dope to get clean, and continues to help me today staying clean. So yeah, this show, the focus was definitely on music, but it is a big part of recovery from drug addiction. So if you're one of those people, as I've talked about on this show, that may be watching, who was looking for information online about how to get through opiate withdrawals, and you stuck with us this whole show, whether it's live or the recorded version, hopefully we shared some information that'll be an inspiration to you. If you're struggling through it, believe me, I know what it's like. I've been there, done that. Ace shared with us. He's been clean 6 years. If we can do it, you can do it. When you're going through those withdrawals, you feel like you can't make it another minute sometimes, but I promise you, if you just keep going, you will get through it. We say on this show a lot, that old saying, if you're going through hell, keep fucking going. You will come out the other side. It takes time to get that shit out of your body, and the withdrawal symptoms can linger on for a long time. It's been a couple of years for me now, and I still sometimes will get, what they call pause, post-acute withdrawal symptoms. They just creep up every now and then, but then you realize what it is, and you're able to push through it. I wouldn't trade the life I have today for anything. So the point I'm making is you can get through it. If you're somebody struggling with addiction, whether it's opiates or anything else right now, I promise you can get through it. And we really hope that this show is some kind of inspiration. And like we say, if we can help even one person, then it's all worth it. So Dustin, thank you again. Dean, as always, thank you so much for all your hard work behind the scenes. I meant what I said, bro. You truly are a rock star, keeping us on the air and juggling all them photos and videos and everything else today. I thought the show went great. So thank both of you guys. And, of course, Ace calling in and Neela, Shaban calling in. So I thought it was a great show. Like I often say when we're wrapping up, if you're going through it, just keep fighting the good fight. And we hope to talk to you next time on the Dare Me podcast.